In the bustling hallways of Westlake Medical School, where the scent of antiseptic mingled with the aroma of overpriced coffee from the campus cafe, Alex Chen hurried between classes with his backpack slung over one shoulder and a stack of textbooks cradled in his arms. Unlike most of his classmates who dreamed of surgical residencies or cutting-edge research positions, Alex had always been drawn to the intersection of conventional medicine and alternative healing practices. This fascination had led him to enroll in an elective course on acupuncture and Eastern medicine, a decision that raised eyebrows among his more traditionally minded peers but felt right to him. Let me explain why this mattered so much to Alex. Growing up with a grandmother who had treated everything from common colds to chronic pain with her collection of herbs and precise pressure point techniques, he had witnessed firsthand the power of these ancient practices. He wanted to bridge worlds, to bring the wisdom of generations into modern medical settings, even if that meant enduring the occasional skeptical glance from classmates. The problem Alex now faced, however, was entirely practical. The theoretical portion of the acupuncture course had been manageable. He'd aced the exams on meridian pathways and pressure points, but the hands-on component was proving to be a significant challenge. Dr. Sharma, their instructor, had announced that each student would need to complete 10 documented practice sessions with a volunteer patient before the end of the semester. Theory is only the beginning, she had said, her voice carrying the weight of decades of experience. The true art of acupuncture lives in your fingers, in your ability to feel the energy beneath the skin. This declaration had sent a wave of anxiety through Alex. He wasn't particularly coordinated, and the thought of wielding needles near someone's vital points made his palms sweat. Finding a willing practice patient was proving difficult. His roommate had flat out refused, citing a childhood fear of needles. His study group partners had suddenly become very busy whenever he broached the subject. Even posting on the medical school's message board had yielded no responses. As the deadline approached, Alex began to wonder if he would have to drop the course altogether, abandoning a dream before it had truly begun. It was during this period of mounting desperation that Jamie Rodriguez entered Alex's life in a meaningful way. They had shared classes before, occasionally nodding to each other in the hallways or exchanging brief comments during group discussions, but they hadn't really connected. Jamie was everything Alex wasn't, effortlessly sociable, quick with a joke, and seemingly untroubled by the crushing pressure of medical school. With dark curly hair that always looked artfully tousled and warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, Jamie was well-liked by professors and students alike. There was something magnetic about him, a genuine warmth that drew people in. They properly met one evening in the medical library, both staying late to study for an upcoming pharmacology exam. The library was nearly empty, with most students having retreated to their apartments or the more social environment of campus coffee shops. Alex had claimed a corner table, his notes and textbooks spread out in organized chaos, when he noticed Jamie looking for a place to settle. Without thinking, Alex waved him over, offering the empty chair across from him. "Might as well suffer together," he said with a tired smile, immediately regretting how awkward it sounded. But Jamie just laughed, dropping his backpack and sliding into the chair. "Suffering is always better with company," he agreed, pulling out his own color-coded notes. "You're in Dr. Sharma's acupuncture elective, right? I've seen you taking notes like your life depends on it." Alex felt a flush of embarrassment but also a spark of interest. "Yeah, that's me. The guy with the carpal tunnel from excessive note-taking." He hesitated, then added, "It's actually my favorite class, even though I'm struggling with the practical component." Jamie leaned forward, genuinely curious. "What's the issue? You seem like the type who'd be good at detailed work." This simple question opened the floodgates, and Alex found himself explaining his predicament, the need for a practice patient, his growing anxiety about the deadline, and his fear of failing a course he truly cared about. He hadn't meant to dump all of this on someone he barely knew, but there was something about Jamie that made it easy to talk, to be honest about his struggles. When Alex finally ran out of words, Jamie was quiet for a moment, tapping his pen against his notebook. Then, with a casual shrug that belied the significance of the offer, he said, "I could be your practice patient." Alex blinked, certain he had misheard. "You do that? Let me stick needles in you for practice." Jamie's smile was warm and slightly mischievous. "Sure, why not? I've always been curious about acupuncture. My abuela swears by it for her arthritis." Besides, he added with a wink that made Alex's heart do an unexpected flip, "I trust you not to do any permanent damage. Those steady hands of yours look reliable." And just like that, their arrangement was born. They exchanged numbers and agreed to meet in one of the small practice rooms that medical students could reserve for study sessions or clinical skills practice. Alex spent the next 2 days in a state of nervous anticipation, reviewing his notes obsessively and watching instructional videos until his eyes burned. He needed, to make a good impression, to prove that Jamie's trust wasn't misplaced. The appointed day arrived, and Alex got to the practice room early to set up. He arranged the acupuncture needles in their sterile packaging, laid out alcohol swabs, and adjusted the examination table to a comfortable height. He had just finished when there was a knock at the door, and Jamie sauntered in, looking relaxed in a loose-fitting t-shirt and jeans. "So, Doc," Jamie said, dropping his backpack by the door, "ready to turn me into a human pincushion?" Alex tried to laugh, but it came out as more of a nervous hiccup. "I promise it's not as bad as it sounds. Acupuncture needles are incredibly thin, nothing like injection needles. Most people barely feel them." Jamie hopped onto the examination table, his easy confidence making the sterile room feel suddenly warmer. "I'm in your hands. Just tell me what you need me to do." Alex took a deep breath, centering himself the way Dr. Sharma had taught them. "For today's session, we're going to focus on some basic points to help with stress and tension, something I figure all med students could use." He explained the meridian pathways they would be working with, pointing out the locations on Jamie's arms and shoulders. "I'll need you to roll up your sleeve so I can access the points properly." Jamie complied, pushing up the sleeve of his t-shirt to expose a toned arm. Alex tried to maintain his professional demeanor as he cleaned the first area with an alcohol swab, but he couldn't help noticing the smooth curve of muscle, the warmth of Jamie's skin beneath his fingertips. "Focus," he told himself sternly. "This is clinical practice, not a date." With careful precision, Alex removed the first needle from its packaging, holding it the way Dr. Sharma had demonstrated. "You might feel a slight pinch," he warned, positioning the needle over the first point on Jamie's forearm. "Try to relax and breathe normally." Jamie nodded, watching with curious eyes. Alex took another steadying breath and began to insert the needle, only to feel an unexpected resistance. Jamie let out a surprised laugh. "I think you missed," he said, pointing to where the needle had somehow gone through a fold in his t-shirt rather than into his skin. Alex froze in mortification, the needle still dangling from Jamie's shirt. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," he stammered, carefully removing it. "I can't believe This is exactly what I was afraid of. I'm really not usually this clumsy." But Jamie was laughing, a genuine, warm sound that filled the small room. "Hey, at least you didn't stab me in the wrong place. And technically, your aim was perfect. You hit exactly what you were pointing at. It's not your fault my shirt got in the way." The absurdity of the situation hit Alex then, and he found himself laughing too, the tension draining from his shoulders. "Maybe I should stick to theory after all," he said, shaking his head. Jamie's eyes met his, still dancing with amusement. "No way. Everyone makes mistakes when they're learning. Try again. Just make sure you're aiming for actual skin this time." That moment of shared laughter changed something between them. The nervousness that had been knotting Alex's stomach eased, replaced by a comfortable camaraderie. He adjusted Jamie's sleeve more carefully this time, making sure the fabric was completely out of the way, and successfully placed the first needle. Jamie's eyes widened slightly. "That's it. I barely felt anything." "That's the idea," Alex said, gaining confidence as he prepared the next needle. "The sensation should be subtle, maybe a slight tingling or warmth, but not pain." As Alex continued placing needles along the meridian points, they fell into easy conversation. Jamie asked questions about the theory behind each placement, genuinely interested in understanding the process. Alex found himself explaining concepts he'd only recently learned, discovering that teaching someone else solidified his own understanding. They talked about their paths to medical school, Alex's methodical journey driven by a desire to honor his grandmother's healing traditions while embracing modern medicine, Jamie's more winding route that included a year working as an EMT in his hometown. "That must have been intense," Alex commented as he carefully placed a needle near Jamie's shoulder. "Being on the front lines like that." Jamie's expression grew momentarily serious. "It was. Hardest year of my life, but also the most certain I've ever been about medicine being my calling." He paused, then added with his characteristic lightness, "Though I have to say, this is much more relaxing than responding to 3 a.m. emergency calls." By the end of the session, Alex had successfully placed all the required needles without further mishaps. He carefully removed each one, properly disposing of them and checking Jamie's skin for any unusual reactions. "How do you feel?" he asked, trying not to sound too eager for approval. Jamie rotated his shoulder, a thoughtful expression on his face. Good, actually. Relaxed. There's a kind of warmth flowing through my arm that wasn't there before. He hopped off the table with an easy grace. So, same time next week for session 2? Alex couldn't hide his relief and pleasure. You really want to continue? Absolutely, Jamie confirmed, gathering his things. I'm invested now. Can't leave you without a practice patient halfway through the course. At the door, he turned back with that smile that seemed to light up his whole face. Besides, I'm curious to see what other clothing items you might accidentally pierce. Alex groaned, but he was smiling too. I'm never going to live that down, am I? Not a chance, Chin. Not a chance. As promised, they met the following week, and the week after that. Each session became more fluid as Alex gained confidence in his technique. The practice room became their space, a bubble separate from the frantic pace of medical school where they could talk freely about everything and nothing, their classes, their families, their dreams for the future. Alex learned that Jamie was the first in his family to pursue medicine, that he had 3 younger sisters who called him every Sunday without fail, that he stress-baked elaborate pastries before big exams. In turn, Alex found himself sharing things he rarely discussed with classmates: his grandmother's passing during his first year of undergraduate studies, his parents' initial disappointment when he came out to them, his secret fear that he wasn't cut out for the competitive world of medicine. During their 4th session, as Alex was working on points along Jamie's back that were meant to promote general wellness, Jamie asked quietly, "Have you ever wondered why some people just click? Like, from the first conversation, it feels like you've known them forever." Alex's hand stilled momentarily, his heart rate picking up. "I have, actually," he admitted, carefully placing another needle. "It's rare, though." Jamie hummed in agreement, his voice slightly muffled as he spoke into the cushioned headrest. "Very rare. I've only experienced it a couple of times." There was a pause, filled with unspoken implications, before he added, "You know, these sessions have become the highlight of my week." The admission hung in the air between them, delicate as the needles Alex was placing. "Mine too," he finally said, allowing himself to acknowledge what had been growing between them, a connection that went beyond friendship, beyond the clinical nature of their arrangement. Their routine expanded beyond the practice sessions. They began studying together regularly, grabbing coffee before early morning classes, texting each other memes about medical school struggles late at night. Alex found himself looking for Jamie in every crowded lecture hall, his day brightening when he caught sight of that familiar tousled hair or heard that distinctive laugh. It was during one of these study sessions, surrounded by anatomy flashcards in Jamie's apartment, that the dynamic between them shifted again. They had been quizzing each other for hours, fueled by takeout and determination to ace their upcoming exam. It was nearly midnight when Jamie threw down his cards and stretched, his t-shirt riding up to reveal a strip of skin that Alex pretended not to notice. "I can't look at another diagram of the brachial plexus," Jamie declared. "My brain is officially full." Alex rubbed his eyes, equally exhausted. "Same. I'm starting to dream in anatomical terms." Jamie laughed, then grew quiet, studying Alex with an intensity that made him self-conscious. "What?" Alex asked, wondering if he had something on his face. "I was just thinking," Jamie said slowly, "about how different this semester would have been if you hadn't waved me over in the library that night." Alex felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the apartment's heating. "Probably less painful for you," he joked. "Fewer needle sticks." "But so much less interesting," Jamie countered, shifting closer on the couch. "I'd still be that guy you occasionally nodded to in the hallway, instead of." He trailed off, seeming unsure how to define what they had become. The air between them felt charged, full of possibility. Alex found himself leaning forward slightly, drawn by an invisible pull. "Instead of what?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jamie's eyes dropped to Alex's lips for the briefest moment before meeting his gaze again. "Instead of someone who can't stop thinking about you," he admitted, the words rushing out as if he'd been holding them back for too long. "Who looks forward to getting poked with needles just to spend an hour with you? Who wonders what it would be like if a—" Alex didn't let him finish, closing the distance between them in a surge of courage he hadn't known he possessed. The kiss was tentative at first, a question being asked and answered in the same breath. Jamie's lips were soft against his, and when Alex started to pull back, uncertain, Jamie's hand came up to cup his face, drawing him back in for a deeper kiss that left no room for doubt. When they finally broke apart, Alex felt dizzy, his heart racing as if he'd sprinted across campus. "I've been wanting to do that since you stuck a needle through my shirt," Jamie confessed, his smile radiant. Alex groaned, dropping his forehead to Jamie's shoulder. "You're never going to let me forget that, are you?" "Never," Jamie confirmed, pressing a kiss to Alex's temple. "It's our origin story now." The weeks that followed were a delicious blur of discovery, stolen kisses between classes, study sessions that turned into make-out sessions, learning each other in ways that had nothing to do with medicine and everything to do with connection. They kept their relationship relatively quiet at first, not out of shame but from a desire to protect the precious newness of what they had found. The acupuncture sessions continued, now with an added layer of intimacy that made Alex even more attentive to Jamie's comfort and reactions. It wasn't all smooth sailing, of course. The pressures of medical school didn't disappear just because they'd found each other. Their first real argument came during finals week, both of them stressed and sleep-deprived, snapping over something trivial that spiraled into voiced insecurities. Alex worried that he was distracting Jamie from his studies. Jamie feared that Alex wasn't taking their relationship seriously. They spent a miserable day apart before Jamie showed up at Alex's door with peace offerings, coffee, and an apology. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "I was stressed, and I took it out on you." Alex pulled him inside, relief washing over him. "I'm sorry too. I've never done this before, balanced a relationship with everything else. I'm figuring it out as I go." Jamie's smile was gentle as he set the coffee down and took Alex's hands in his. "Me too. But I'd rather figure it out with you than get it right with anyone else." That night, curled together in Alex's narrow bed, they made promises to communicate better, to make time for each other even when their schedules seemed impossible, to remember that they were on the same team. It was the first test of their relationship, and passing it made what they had feel even more real, more substantial. As the semester drew to a close, Alex prepared for their final acupuncture session with mixed emotions. On one hand, he had grown confident in his skills, ready to demonstrate them for Dr. Sharma's evaluation. On the other hand, these sessions had been the foundation of his relationship with Jamie, and their conclusion felt significant in ways he couldn't quite articulate. Jamie seemed to sense his mood as they set up in their usual practice room. "Why so serious, Chin?" he teased gently. "Worried you'll pierce my clothing again for old time's sake?" Alex smiled despite himself. "I'm being nostalgic, I guess. This is where it all started." Jamie hopped onto the examination table with familiar ease. "The end of one chapter, the beginning of another," he said, rolling up his sleeve without being asked. "Besides, who says we have to stop? Maybe I've developed a taste for being your personal pincushion." Alex laughed as he prepared the first needle. "I'm pretty sure that's not a thing." "It could be," Jamie insisted. "We could start a trend. Couples acupuncture." The word couples still gave Alex a little thrill. He carefully inserted the first needle, noting with satisfaction how much steadier his hands were now compared to their first session. "Speaking of couples," he said, trying to sound casual, "my mom called yesterday. She wants to know if I'm bringing anyone home for winter break." Jamie went very still, only his eyes moving to meet Alex's. "And what did you tell her?" Alex placed another needle before answering. "I told her I needed to ask you first, but that I hoped you'd say yes." The smile that bloomed across Jamie's face was like sunrise breaking over the horizon. "Meeting the parents, huh? That's a big step." "Too big?" Alex asked, suddenly uncertain. Jamie reached out with the arm that didn't have needles in it, catching Alex's hand and bringing it to his lips. "Not too big. Just right." He kissed Alex's knuckles gently. "I'd love to meet your family." Relief and happiness flooded through Alex as he continued the treatment, each needle placed with care and precision. By the time he finished, Jamie was in a state of relaxed contentment, his eyes half closed. "You've gotten really good at this," he murmured as Alex began removing the needles. "Dr. Sharma is going to be impressed." "I had an excellent patient," Alex replied, carefully disposing of the last needle. "Very cooperative. Most of the time." Jamie sat up, stretching languidly. "I have my moments." He watched as Alex cleaned up, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, when I offered to be your practice patient, I was just being friendly. I had no idea." "That I'd stick a needle through your shirt?" Alex supplied with a grin. Jamie laughed, pulling Alex between his knees and wrapping his arms around his waist. "That too. But I meant I had no idea you'd end up being so important to me." His expression grew serious, vulnerable in a way that made Alex's heart ache with tenderness. "I'm really glad you needed a practice patient." Alex leaned down, pressing their foreheads together. "I'm really glad you volunteered." He kissed Jamie softly, still amazed that he could do this, that this remarkable person wanted him back. "Though next semester, maybe we should find a less painful way to spend time together." Jamie's eyes sparkled with mischief. I don't know about that. I've developed a theory that your acupuncture has magical properties. Is that so? Alex asked, playing along. What kind of magical properties? Jamie pulled him closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. The kind that make people fall in love. Alex's breath caught. They hadn't said those words yet, though he'd felt them building inside him for weeks. That's not in any of the textbooks, he managed to say. Maybe it should be, Jamie replied, his eyes never leaving Alex's. Because I'm pretty sure that's what happened to me. Alex cupped Jamie's face in his hands, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. Me too, he admitted. I love you, Jamie Rodriguez. Jamie's smile was radiant. I love you too, Alex Chin. Needles and all. As they left the practice room for the last time, hands intertwined, Alex reflected on how the most unexpected turns in life often led to the most beautiful destinations. He had entered that acupuncture elective hoping to connect with his cultural heritage and expand his medical knowledge. He had ended up finding a partner who supported his dreams, challenged him to grow, and loved him, awkward first attempts, nervous stumbles, and all. In the grand scheme of medical school, an acupuncture elective might seem insignificant. But for Alex and Jamie, it had been the beginning of everything, proof that sometimes healing comes in forms we never anticipated, and that connection can be found in the most unexpected places. As they stepped out into the crisp winter air, planning their future together one day at a time, Alex silently thanked his grandmother for inspiring his interest in acupuncture. Somehow, he thought she would approve of where it had led him. Total _char_count, 18,846.